The mysterious and frigid depths of the ocean have long captivated human imagination. Throughout history, we've ventured across the vast, blue expanses, driven by a quest for new discoveries and adventures. The Earth's waters, covering 98% of its surface, are immense and full of secrets. Thus, it's hardly surprising that explorations have unearthed some truly strange findings. In a recent intriguing development, the Navy, in collaboration with tech innovator Elon Musk, stumbled upon something so startling that they felt compelled to share it with the world. What peculiarities have Navy deep-sea divers uncovered, and what are Elon Musk's plans for this extraordinary discovery? Join us as we delve into Elon Musk's revelations about the Navy's oceanic discoveries. The huge, salty water covering most of the Earth is called the global ocean, and it's massive, taking up more than 70% of our planet's surface. Scientists split this big water body into 4 main oceans: the Great Pacific, Atlantic, Indian, and Arctic. But recently, they agreed on a 5th one called the Southern Ocean, circling around Antarctica. This new ocean was recognized by National Geographic on June 8, 2021. We've discovered around 226,000 types of ocean creatures, but there could be way more we haven't found yet. Some scientists think many ocean creatures are struggling because of pollution, warming seas, and other problems hurting their homes. But despite these challenges, scientists keep finding new species. They believe there might still be hundreds of thousands, or even millions of species we haven't spotted yet. We've uncovered some pretty mysterious things under the sea, like the Bermuda Triangle and the Mariana Trench, the deepest spot on Earth, plunging down 7 miles. There are even whole cities that got buried underwater, like the Greek city of Palapterid, which could have sunk around 1000 BC and is about 5,000 years old. The ocean isn't just a cool place to find strange things, it's also a treasure trove of knowledge about how animals evolved. Exploring the ocean has shown us that life on Earth has changed a lot since it all began. From gigantic ancient sharks like the megalodon to today's tough tube worms in the deep, cold parts of the Arctic Ocean, we've learned a ton. The Arctic Ocean might be the smallest ocean, covering about 5.4 million square miles, but it's still massive, making up 4% of Earth's surface, 1.5 times bigger than the United States. It's not very deep compared to other oceans, averaging about 3,153 feet deep, with its deepest part hitting 18,064 feet. This is because not much water evaporates there, and lots of fresh water from glaciers and rivers flows into it. The Arctic Ocean is full of life thanks to rivers, glaciers, and moving currents. But things are changing because of climate change. The ice covering the ocean is melting more each year as the Earth gets warmer. This isn't just about the environment. It's causing worries about the environment, creating tensions between countries, and making people curious about making money by using new shipping routes and finding resources in the untouched land. The food chain in the Arctic starts with tiny plants called phytoplankton. Even in the freezing cold and darkness, these little plants grow and make food from light and nutrients. But the time they get to grow depends on how much sunlight and nutrients they get, which changes with the seasons and how much ice there is. Recently, scientists found giant sponges on old underwater volcanoes deep in the Arctic Ocean. These sponges survive by eating the fossilized bones of ancient animals. Anne Chabotius, a scientist, said this discovery is unique. These sponges live in a place with no sunlight, sinking deeper into the blue water. This part of the Arctic is a mystery. In 2016, scientists on a research ship called Polar Stern found something amazing: rich and crowded underwater homes on top of old volcanoes near the North Pole. These discoveries are fascinating because scientists knew sponges lived everywhere in the ocean, but didn't expect to find them thriving in the Arctic. Usually, sponges get their food by filtering tiny bits from the water. But in the Arctic, where ice covers the sea for a long time, there's not much food floating around. So, how do these sponges survive? To figure this out, Teresa Morganti, a sponge expert, looked at pictures and pieces of the sponge. She wanted to know how old they were and what they ate to stay alive. Sponges, those squishy creatures found in the ocean, are pretty amazing. Inside them, there's a bunch of strong bacteria living there for around 300 years, on average. These bacteria help the sponges survive by munching on old stuff from the sea floor, like worm homes and other leftovers left behind by creatures that don't exist anymore. Research by Morganti and friends found that these sponges have these little microbe pals that do a lot for them. They bring in nutrients from the water, clean up after the sponges, and even make antibiotics to keep them healthy. These Arctic sponges don't just drink seawater like you might think. They snack on the stuff trapped in the mats where they live. It's like a time capsule of what life was like ages ago. There used to be a lot more happening deep beneath the seafloor, with volcanoes and lots of different creatures living there thousands of years ago, but most of that has disappeared, leaving these cool sponge gardens behind. The bacteria on the sponges have this special way of breaking down old remains and sharing the nutrients with the sponges. It's like they have a toolbox designed just for this job, using old stuff for food and energy. Scientists like Elon Musk say this research is super important, especially with the changing climate and the Arctic ice melting so fast. Understanding these unique spots in the ocean is a big deal for keeping them safe. A NASA scientist found something mind-blowing. It's like finding a rainforest in the middle of a desert, but under the disappearing ice in the Arctic. They discovered these tiny plants called phytoplankton thriving there. In fact, they think the Arctic might have more of these little plants than anywhere else in the whole ocean. The Arctic's getting warmer, and a recent discovery shows how it's shaking things up there. Scientists found that tiny plant-like things called phytoplankton are thriving under the sea ice. This discovery is a big deal because it helps us understand how climate change is changing the Arctic Ocean and the life there. They drilled through 3 feet of ice to study this. Normally, phytoplankton in the open water take their time to grow, doubling in size over 2 to 3 days. But the ones under the ice are super active, multiplying more than once a day. This is a big surprise because scientists used to think the ice blocked sunlight that these little plants need to grow. Now, with the ice melting, sunlight's getting through, and these plants are blooming where they never did before. These phytoplankton are crucial because they're at the bottom of the food chain. They also soak up a bunch of carbon dioxide, which is good for the environment. But if there are lots more of these blooms under the ice, it might change how much carbon dioxide is released into the Arctic Ocean. We're not sure if these under-ice blooms have been happening for a long time, but if the ice keeps melting, they might spread even more. This could affect animals like whales and birds that migrate there. See, small ocean animals eat these phytoplankton, then bigger fish and creatures eat them. If these plants start blooming earlier, it could mess up the food chain for the animals that rely on them. These changes could make life tougher for migrating animals. If their food shows up earlier, they might miss it. This discovery could also affect how we think about the whole world's carbon cycle and how the oceans work. Researchers might have to rethink their ideas about how the Arctic's environment fits into the bigger picture of Earth. Scientists are really worried about what plastic pollution is doing to people and ocean animals. They found a whole lot of plastic stuck in Arctic sea ice when they took samples from 5 different spots in the Arctic Ocean. In every sample they collected in 2014 and 2015, they discovered up to 3 times more tiny plastic bits trapped in the ice compared to what they found before. These scientists from the Alfred Wegener Institute found all sorts of plastic stuff like packaging, paint pieces, nylon, polyester, and even bits of stuff used in making cigarette filters called cellulose acetate. Everyone's really concerned because there's a lot of plastic everywhere, and it's causing big problems for our planet. The Arctic has become a big place where plastic builds up, even more than the famous garbage patch in the Pacific Ocean. Scientists think around 1 trillion pieces of plastic have gotten stuck in Arctic ice in the last few decades. But Dr. Gunnar Gertz, who led the research, found something really worrying. Some of the plastic pieces were super tiny, only 11 micrometers wide, which is way smaller than a human hair. That's why they found more than 12,000 of these tiny plastic bits in every liter of sea ice. The scientists also figured out where some of this plastic might have come from. Some came from old fishing gear, some had traveled thousands of kilometers on ocean currents, and some might have come from pollution closer to the Arctic. Dr. Ilka Pekan, one of the researchers, said that the high levels of tiny plastic might not just be from outside the Arctic, but might also be because of pollution in the Arctic itself. They're not sure yet how all this plastic might affect people and animals. With around 5 trillion pieces of plastic floating in oceans worldwide, it's a huge problem. Animals often mistake this plastic for food, and it's harming them. This new study found lots of different types of plastic in different parts of the Arctic, showing that shipping and fishing are making things worse. This plastic trapped in Arctic ice is getting moved around by the ice melting, which means tiny plastic bits are now all over the ocean. It's a big issue that affects everyone and everything in the ocean. There's no safe place from this plastic problem. Antarctica has fascinated people for years, captivating both today's scientists and historic explorers from the 1800s. It's a mysterious, icy land that holds secrets no one's fully uncovered. Extreme weather, freezing temperatures, and barren landscapes make it impossible for humans to live there. Covered almost entirely in ice, Antarctica is massive, about 1.5 times the size of the United States. Despite its harshness, researchers persist in exploring this frozen continent. Surprisingly, hidden beneath its colossal glaciers are numerous subsurface lakes, over 400 in the studied areas alone, first spotted by radars in 1970. Scientists link these lakes to Antarctica's separation from the ancient supercontinent Gondwana land. The weight of the ice sheets on top stops the lakes in Antarctica from freezing. One of the biggest lakes under the ice is called Lake Vostok. It's found 3.5 kilometers below the ice and is the third biggest lake by volume in the world. Although the ice covered it around 20 million years ago, scientists drilled deep into the ice to get water samples. One sample showed the temperature there is about 3 degrees Celsius. In another lake called Lake Willans, a kilometer beneath the ice, scientists made a big discovery in 2014. They found some really cool creatures living there that have survived without sunlight or clean air for millions of years. They use methane and ammonia for energy. There are tiny critters, giant squid, long spiders, and big worms with sharp jaws. And there's even a see-through fish with big eyes and see-through skin. It can't live in warmer water and doesn't have the red stuff in its blood like we do. Scientists also found fossils of dinosaurs, birds, and sea animals from a long time ago. There are tiny fossils that experts argue about, and even the wings of an old beetle from millions of years ago. They found ancient sperm too, like from 50 million years ago. That's crazy. In Antarctica, there's a huge ice shelf called the Ross Ice Shelf. It's super big, almost the size of France. Guess what? It makes a sound like it's singing. It happens because of the wind moving across the snow. Scientists use special tools to hear this song because we can't hear it without those tools. This ice shelf song changes when things like snowstorms happen or when it starts melting. Scientists are trying to figure out if the ice shelf might break by listening to this song and watching how it changes. Deep down in Antarctica, there's so much we still don't know. It's a really mysterious place. Even with all the hard work from scientists, there are still things we might never understand about it. If you're loving these fascinating Antarctic mysteries, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more incredible discoveries.